Hey there, my name is Eric Stoff. I make music with my wife and my friends in a band called the Stoffs, and you are watching a video series called Little Flock Deconstructed, in which I break down the stories and the inspiration and the production behind my new album, Little Flock. Today we're talking about a track called Suspended and Safe. It is about bridges, it is about how God provided for my family in a tough season, and it is the noisiest track I have ever made. Let's go.
Suspended and safe because you're here. You measured up to your reputation and neutralize all of my fear.
Okay, real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and then follow me on Instagram at EricJStoff. And share these videos with your friends. My hope for this video series is that it adds a richer listening experience for the record. So what is Suspended and Safe about, and why am I standing on this bridge? The song really is about God providing for my family. In early 2017, Brooke and my network marketing business grew to a place where we could at least have the discussion about what it would look like if I left my day job. But we were expecting our first baby. I liked my day job, and we didn't really know what was next if I left. So we prayed about it a lot. We prayed by ourselves and with mentors, and two of those mentors both mentioned bridges while they were praying with us. One specifically said that God gave her the vision of a bridge while she was praying with us, and the other said he felt as if God was providing my job as a bridge through a transition period of our lives. So later that day, I came out to this park, Flowing Well Park in Carmel, Indiana, and it had just rained, so the creek was swollen way past its banks and it was spilling out into the woods. It was really cool to see. But I was standing on this bridge looking down at the water just rushing by beneath me, and then the significance of that bridge metaphor really hit me. So this whole idea of being suspended, safe, warm, and dry while standing literally above violent rushing water, that was a very literal image for me when I was standing on this bridge. But it became a really powerful metaphor when I stayed at that job, and by the way, I really needed it. Things got really tough once the baby came, which I discussed in the previous video about the song called Payday. But God is good. He measured up to his reputation of being good and providing for his children throughout history. And then there's the line, "You neutralized all my fear." It's the last line of the song, and it's really idealistic. I think a lot of Christ followers can probably relate to this cycle of being in a tough spot, but then God provides for you, and you praise him, you thank him, and you say, why would I ever not trust you? Why would I ever live in fear again? But fear always has that tendency to sneak back in, make you doubt, make you question, and make you lose faith. Thankfully, God's grace is enough and is sufficient to cover all of our humanness when we don't put our faith and trust in him. Okay, so the production of Suspended and Safe. This song started as a piano ballad. We had a friend's piano at our house because she was moving and we were storing it at our house. And I wrote the chord progression and the melody to Suspended and Safe on that piano. It was much slower when I wrote it, and I eventually added some percussion and acoustic guitar. I was really inspired by John Lennon's debut solo album, The Plastic Ono Band. It's really stark and simple, like drums, bass, and piano, or drums, bass, and guitar, and it really works well. So at that point, I was kind of trying to keep things really straightforward with the songs that I was writing, and the demo of Suspended and Safe reflects that. But at its core, the song is really pretty straightforward. The verse is just one chord progression repeated, and then the chorus is a 5-4-1 progression. The verse, though, does have maybe just a little bit of flair. You might disagree. Starts on the 1, and then it goes to a 2 minor 7, then it goes to a secondary dominant major 3 7, to a 4, back down to the 1. Now in a major key, the 3 chord, known as the mediant, is of minor value. So this would be E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor. But I mixed it up and I made it a major chord with a minor 7 extension, which makes it a secondary dominant chord, and it gives it that big pull up to the 4 chord. Whoops.
Music theory.
So at its core, the song is pretty straightforward pop, but the album version and the production on the album version is really a study in contrasts. There is a ton of noise, which I really like incorporating noise. So let's talk about that for a second. The intro is extremely noisy. There are 2 digital drum kits panned side to side with a ton of delay and distortion on them. They're just like pounding away. And then there is a noise bed in the key of E, which actually comes from the piano that we were storing at our house. I did a voice memo on my phone of just me messing around in the key of E, put it in Ableton, I reversed it, and then put in a ton of effects that really make it indistinguishable. Listening back, it's really hard to tell that it's a piano at all. So we go through the intro and the first verse with all that noise, and then there's a big cut for the first chorus. It's a down chorus, just dry piano and dry vocals. I wanted it to serve as a big relief in the song from all that noise. It is the most exposed that my vocals, I think, have ever been on a recording. There was nothing to hide behind at all.
Suspended and safe now in this season. Suspended and safe because you're here.
So the second verse comes in really strong, and I am joined in harmony by my wife Brooke and my friend Matt Sewert.
Staring at the current strength.
Hey.
I know that on our own we would surely drown.
Glug glug, baby. Real drums also come in on verse 2. They are played by Luke Cross, who plays drums on 10 of the 11 tracks on Little Flock. Luke is an awesome drummer. He's a great friend of mine, and he also played drums a couple years ago when the Stoffs were a full band that played gigs out and stuff like that. And I don't know if I've ever played with another musician who really gets my music like Luke. I can't say enough nice things about him. So full drums come in on verse 2, and there's also a synth bass on this song. There is no bass guitar, it's just a synth bass. There's a lot of guitars going on in verse 2 as well. There are 2 overdriven acoustics. There are also 2 electric guitars with just like drenched in delay, and they're panned. And then we head into the chorus, which is really big, and it opens up in part from Luke's drumming. And then there's also 4 different OP1 tracks going on at the same time that kind of add like this dreamlike shimmer to the whole thing. 2 of those tracks are the string engine from the OP1, and 2 are from the pulse engine on the OP1, and I describe them as like the glidey synth. All right, are you hanging in there? I would say let me know if I need to slow down, but this is a video, so just pause and rewind. After the chorus, it kind of resolves. I was playing synth bass on my Ableton Push, so it's really easy to just like make a ton of noise because you just like kind of smash your hands on the pads, and it just sounds really cool. Luke does a fill and gets us into the outro, and at this point I get to talk about Ben Fuller. He plays piano on this song as well as Sheep and Labor Day, and his input on this song really shapes the outro. So he's first of all playing this beautiful, gorgeous piano solo. And he's also the one who encouraged me to keep the noise outro. Artistically, I was really drawn to incorporating that noise at the end, but it was at a time where I didn't really have the courage to keep it, and he said the right thing at the right time that really made me decide to keep it there. So he interpreted that noise as representing the fear and doubt that creeps back in even after God has provided. I remember him telling me that he loved this concept of like me singing, "Oh, you've neutralized all my fear," and then we go into this nice full band jam, but then within a minute or two we're back in just this like sea of chaos and noise and distortion. He also heard something in a rough demo and encouraged me to keep it. There's this finger-picked guitar at the end that stays in just a little bit longer than the full band. The band fades out and we're getting ready to be like totally submerged in noise, but there's this little warbly finger-picked guitar that stays in a little bit longer before the noise really takes over and just becomes this big wall of sound. There's really no significance there unless you want to personally ascribe it. I wanted to share that because I think it shows how thought out and how fully arranged this outro is. It is noise, it is chaos, and there's no getting around that. But even with noise and chaos, even though there's no rhythm and it's just a drone and a wall of sound, it was still composed and it was still arranged in a way that I thought out and really chose to do it intentionally. So that noise continues for just a little bit longer than what I would consider comfortable. And then it cuts to audio of my daughter saying, "Oh, wow." So in the single version, we fade out the outro gradually and it never quite gets to that moment of uncomfortability. But on the album version, I was very adamant about keeping a long wall of feedback and chaos in there and then having a hard cut to Holland because I wanted that tension in there. I thought it was necessary. I was very adamant about making an artistic statement with it because there's chaos in life and it's not always comfortable. It's not very fun to sit through, but the raging waters calm at some point. Anyway, that audio comes from a video I took of Holland on my phone. I had her set up in front of a microphone that had some delay on it. So she, for the first time, was hearing her voice echo back, and I got it on video. It was really cool to catch that on video, I can't lie. I have a lot of fun going back and watching that one. Okay, so that is the story behind Suspended and Safe. That is how the song started as an idea and got to the finished product that you hear on the album. I hope you were able to listen with new ears now that you've heard the story behind the song. And before you go, I'd ask you to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and follow me on Instagram at Eric J. Stoff. And I'll see you next week with a new video on the third song from Little Flock. It's called Sheep. See ya.
You've measured up to your reputation and neutralized all of my fear.